Hi everyone, it's Heidi from flutterbyheidi.co.uk. I'm Heidi Smith. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator based in the United Kingdom, right in the heart of the Midlands. And today it's going to be a Sunday because it's Fun Fold Day. And as you know, I do like to do a fun fold for when you've got a little bit more time perhaps to play in your craft room. And today I'm using Dainty Delight, and this wasn't a stamp set I was going to buy. I wasn't going to buy it, and then I won the dies in the raffle. So it was like, yeah, well, now I've got to get the stamp set to go with. So that's what I've got. So I've got the stamp set and the dies, and the dies actually are lovely because not only do they cut out the flowers, but they've got some super accent pieces as well, a couple of which I will be using today. And we're making this card, which is this one here, and it doesn't look it's pretty, but you know, is it anything new? But this is a new one on me. Here you go. It's a pop-up card, so you can then display it open like this, and someone has got a pretty picture to look at with those florals on. So this one I use the Countryside Inn DSP. I keep calling it Countryside Corners because it goes with that stamp and die set. But it's Countryside Inn, and then I've just inked this panel here with the thank you, which has got, so you've got a thank you in here. Sending love, celebrate you, best is yet to come. Useful sentiments. But I just thought, I kind of went, yeah, I love a pop-up. And, you know, yes, it's just a bit of fun. And you get to see the lovely DSP as well. So I'm not going to use that now because I've done that in those colours. And whilst I love the Countryside Inn papers, I think, you know, it's all blues. So I thought, well, do you know what? I want to do a different colour. So I'm going to go with some other paper that I've got, which is the Inked Botanicals paper. So we're going down the Pool Party and Return of Lost Lagoon. And this is the paper we're going to use here. So I've got some ink pads, and I happen to find a little floral spray, which I think is from, I can't remember where it's from. Anyway, I thought I might use that with it, just because it happened to be handy. So, and I've already done a little bit of die cutting as well. And for the sentiment, I'm possibly going to use these dies here, which are the Nested Essentials dies. So these are great, 4 sizes in each. And they've got different types of stitching. So the kind of rounded rectangles have got dots on them. The banners have got double stitching, and then the kind of squashed shape has got almost like little line stitching. So you've actually got some variety in there as well. So let's get some stamping done to start off with. So this is the panel I'm going to use for the front, so we're going to be ink blending that, and then we've got a panel to go on the inside, which I'm hoping I've got here. She says, oh no, it's not that one. Is it this one? Oh, maybe I'm going to need to cut myself a panel. So we want a panel to stamp on, and we want a panel down for the bottom here. So that's my panel for the bottom, which is going to go with my little scrap of DSP. So I'm going to pop that to one side so I don't get confused. Those are for the mechanics of it shortly. There it is. There's the piece. Okay, so this piece here, I'm going to work in centimetres. This piece is 9.5 by 10.5 centimetres. So that's the one for the back. The one for the front is 9.5 by 13.5. And we're going to do some ink blending on that one, and that's my piece for stamping on. So actually what I will do is, let's do some stamping first, because I want to make sure that that's nice and dry before it goes through the die cutting machine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take those 2 big floral sprays, and I'm going to ink them up with some Lost Lagoon, and just stamp that. Quite a large stamp. It's one that you might want to use your Stamparatus for if you've still got one of those. For those who haven't, so sorry you missed out, because it was a brilliant bit of kit. Such a shame, because I felt it was different to the competition. But there we go. Such is the copyright. And Stampin' Up! Are absolute sticklers for making sure that they, you know, don't breach copyright either. So I'm actually going to do both of those in Lost Lagoon. The ones I did before, I actually did in Misty Moonlight and I think Balmy Blue, possibly. Might have been Boho Blue, but I'm going to do them both in these shades. And I'm going to use a little bit of Wink of Stella as well. So I'm going to take this panel while that's drying, and I'm going to do a bit of ink blending. I've got a bit of silicone sheet here, not silicone, like a Teflon sheet, and I'm just going to sort of come in. I'm going to start off the side because I don't want that sort of really dark colour. I want to make sure it's just a pretty soft bit of Lost Lagoon that we've got. And by kind of tapping it and working it a bit on here, it just evens it out so that hopefully we don't get too many sort of smudges of colour. So you see it's just kind of just blending it out here. And I'm trying not to press too hard with this either. Let the brush do the work, 'cause you can always go out and do more. There we go. So I think that's probably about as much as I want. A large part of it's going to be covered up by our images, so any inconsistencies is not going to show. I've got that nice bit of Pool Party. I'll find out which one that's from, because I honestly can't remember. And I'm going to use my Celebrate You on the smallest of these nested essentials, and I think that's going to just add enough of an accent. There we go. So I think that's going to work well on there. Now obviously I can edge that actually, and you can either edge that with your blending brush like so, and just make sure you keep your fingers out of the ink as you go along. So that can go to one side as well. So now what I want to do is do our pop-up panel as well. So I'm just going to do some repeat stamping on the pop-up panel, and I'm just using this slightly smaller image and just popping that sort of over stamping and just adjusting the height slightly like so, and just come in at the bottom, a little bit of filling in as well. I was tempted to stamp over it, and no, less is more. Okay, so that's our pop-up panel for the inside, and then actually I might come and use one of our other stamps for this. If I quickly grab the block. So this is one of our kit blocks, so it's always worth having a look at the Stampin' Up! Kits, and if they're on sale even better, because actually quite a lot of the kits come with a little block in there, which are great for travel. They're just that bit thinner than the usual, but here we go. Just going to pop those florals in there. Okay, and that's the piece that's going to go inside. So now we want to do our die cutting. So I'm going to come in with the dies, and we've got our large die, which is this one here, and then we've got the smaller one as well. And I'm just going to use a couple of bits of post-it note tape just to keep those in place. Line them up so that you can just see that outline all the way around, and then a bit of tape to pop it in place. And again, just manoeuvre those until you just see them in the right place. So let's die cut those as well. Those are our die cuts. So pop those to one side, and all I'm going to do is just come in and use a little bit of, you can either use a blender pen or you could use a bit of Wink of Stella, whichever is your preference. I happen to have my Wink of Stella out from another project, and all I'm going to do is take a little bit of my Pool Party, just because it's a very pale colour, and just add it onto the corner of that block. And then, and I've used Calypso Coral, so I'm just going to wipe off, just to show you what I'm doing, to make sure I haven't got any, I've had a bit of ink contamination going on there. There we go. So just the tiniest little bit, and just colour those in, and you'll see that it's taking a little bit of colour from the ink pad, the ink that I've put on the block, but it's also taking a little bit of colour from the outline of the flowers themselves, and by using that lighter Pool Party we get just a really pretty sort of shade without being too dark. So what you don't want to do is you don't want to lose the detail of these pretty flowers either. So it's a very sort of delicate set. And say it wasn't one I was going to use, but I went to a training event and they used it, and then they say I won it in the raffle. So it's like, well, you know, it was clearly meant to be. But as a result, because I usually, when I buy my supplies, obviously we all have a limited budget, and mine is certainly limited in comparison to how it used to be. So when I make my purchases, I buy it based on projects. I've kind of got a list almost in my mind of what projects I'm going to make with something. So when something like this comes along, it's like, oh, I hadn't planned on that, so I have to sort of, it takes me a little while to kind of get round to planning what I'm going to do with it. But there we go. So those are our two panels, and those are going to go on the front of our card. So what I've also done is I have cut, oh actually that's what I haven't done, have I cut a layer? I have got a layer. So I thought I'd do the card base in Pool Party and then have Lost Lagoon layered on top there. Now if you're going to be frugal, you know me, I do like to be a bit sensible with these things. You can actually gut the middle out of this. So all that means is that you're going to take, I'm lining it up at 2 centimetres on the right hand side, and I'm kind of coming in from about 2 centimetres from the top and the bottom, and I am just cutting a rectangle out of there. So the piece was originally 14 by 10 centimetres. I made it very slightly shorter than the 5 7/8 just to make it easier for the mechanism inside. Yeah, it just is what it is. But that gives me a nice little piece then that I can use for another project. So all I'm going to do now is I'm going to add some, now we're ready just to add some adhesive on the back there, around the outer edge of the frame. Obviously you don't need to add any in the middle. And that's ready to go on the front of our card. So I'm going to add some dimensionals onto the back here. I've got a mix of large, she says, and small dimensionals here. There we go. Obviously got mixed up. So I'm just going to pop those large dimensionals on those bigger bits. What you want to make sure is that it doesn't kind of get bent and sort of squash in the middle. What I'm also going to do is just shape that slightly. Obviously these are small, thin pieces, so just be a little bit more careful. So just, there we go, shape it first, it helps, rather than doing it after you put dimensionals on. So again, just come in with my small dimensionals here, the mini ones. Okay. So the beauty of writing on your dimensionals, like I've done here, I've just used a one of our stamping blends, one of our dark ones, and just drawn lines over. It means you can see which ones you have or haven't taken off. Okay. So now that I've popped those on there, I'm just going to pop those slightly behind. And then to add some interest, as I say, I've got this bit of foliage. Not sure I'm going to use that or not actually. What I have got are some of the little floral accents that come with the dies. So I'm just going to use, probably going to use a bit of fine tipped glue here actually. Or maybe not. And I'm just going to pop those kind of in the background, just adding a little bit of adhesive on the back. You could obviously add a dimensional if you wanted to. I've got a mixture here, some in Pool Party, some in Lost Lagoon, and they're single die, and you should just cut one out at a time, one die, and then it cuts several out at a time. So I think there's 4 little pieces, and I just thought it kind of added a little bit of interest, kind of almost a bit of texture to our background there. There we go. Right. Okay. What else we do? Okay. So stop waffling is what you can do. So that's our front panel for our card. And this is our inner pop-up panel, and this is our layer that we're going to put on the inside. So now what we want to do is create our mechanism and our back card base. So the card base is really easy. It is a standard size card base, although as I say, I made mine very slightly shorter. So it's 14.5, and I'm just going to score it at 10.5 to create a card base. Like so, and then I'm going to add my layers onto the front there as well, and then I've got a piece which is 13 by 4 centimetres, and you're going to score the short at 1 centimetre. So I've just lined that up on the right hand side of my scoreboard, just on the right there, and then I'm going to score the long. I'll show you which bit it is. So you've got a short piece here, and then we're going to go along on the long edge at 3 centimetres and at 6 centimetres. Like so. And then I'm going to do a couple of diagonal scores. So we're going to score across here and across here. Now you could do that on your trimmer if you wanted to. I'm just going to use my embossing tool, embossing end on my take your pick. So on this, with the short at the bottom, you can score 1 V here and another across here. Okay, so you've got a V-shaped shape there. So what I want to do now is actually trim away this narrow strip here. I'm just going to angle this a little bit, and likewise just take off the edge there as well. So you're going to fold and burnish that bottom score line. And then you're going to just do the diagonal, so you're not going to do that vertical. So you're going to end up with a piece that looks like this. Okay. Now this is where you do want to make sure you've got some strong adhesive. Before we glue the mechanism, we're going to put our piece of DSP on the inside. So this is just that quarter inch or 1/2 centimetre difference. So this is 14 by 10 centimetres, but you could do it the whole, exactly the same as the inside if you wanted to as well. So for this here, I'm either going to use my Stamp and Seal or I'm going to use red tape. What you want to make sure is that this panel here is really well covered with it. So I'm just going to go over. What I'm going to do is just use my fine tip glue on this section here and also along here. Right, so now this is the trickiest bit of all, and it really isn't difficult. This corner here, you're going to fold it back on itself and line it up with the top corner with that vertical score line down the middle. And you'll see I'm not tucking that flap under yet because I want to make sure it's nice and level. So I'm just going to let that settle for a moment, give it a really good burnish, and then I'm just going to flip that under and glue that down as well. And that is our mechanism that pops up. So make sure your card closes, and it's as simple as that. So this score line here that we didn't crease, remember, we just kept that as a marker, is what we're lining up with the centre. And likewise this second score line here, we're not creasing that either, we're leaving that as it is. So that then gives us the opportunity to pop our panel up here. Now again, you can do small colouring on that if you want to. I'm just going to pop some seal on the back here. And add that to a layer of Lost Lagoon again. And I say, very easy to do, exactly the same as you did before by using your Wink of Stella and adding a bit of colour onto there. And then to attach this, you're going to add your glue just to this section here. So if I use the fine tip glue again, you can probably see it easily. So you're going to glue along here, all the way along here, and this section here. So all of this is going to be our pop-up. So while it's open, we're just going to pop that in the middle there, and you'll see I've just left a tiny little gap at the end, a tiny little gap here. And while that sets, we can now add our next layer in. So you should have enough space to pop your basic white in, and then enough space just to pop that little bit of trim at the bottom. And that was just a way of, you know, adding a little bit of interest to it, and that gives you your space for your sentiment. Well, I'm just butting that up right up to the top there, and then just come down with your seal on that little. It's a sort of just a 1 centimetre scrap that you've got at the bottom. That then literally just folds down like so, which means that we can pop our panel onto the front. Now if you wanted to, you could pop this panel up on dimensionals. Depends whether you're posting or not and whether you've got, you know, to pay extra for that. If you're paying for a large letter anyway, then pop it up on dimensionals. But if it's going to be hand given, you can do either. So there we have sentiment. That would be helpful, wouldn't it? So let's just pop our sentiment up on a couple of dimensionals, because let's be honest, we all need to be told sometimes to celebrate ourselves. And there we go. So there we have our pop-up panel card. Blue we've got shades of blue, got shades of teals. You could obviously also use this if you wanted to pop a photograph on it, give it to grandparents as well. That would obviously also create a lovely gift. So thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please do let me know if you make it. Let me see what you've done, and I'll pop all the dimensions in both inches and centimetres in the description box below this video. As I said, I don't think I haven't worked out the dimensions in US card size yet, but I'll do my best to do that as well. But it's there in inches anyway, so you will just end up with a slightly taller, narrower card that we have in the on International A4. Thanks for watching. Pop along and shop with Heidi Smith as your demonstrator. That's me. I'd really appreciate it. Give me a thumbs up, give me a like, and if you can't do any of those but you want to buy me a coffee, then do so as well. All right, take care. Back soon. Bye.